This sitting is resumed. Prior to the suspension for lunch, this honorable chamber was debating the award of the Pride of Barbados Act. To that we shall revert. Honourable member for St. Thomas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I will want to, at the outset, lend my support to this bill and to ask your kind permission to allow me to perhaps, during the process, to call a few names of persons whom I believe will fit this profile. I want to say how really extremely overjoyed I am at this time to be a part of this distinguished chamber where I can add my comments and my commendation in relation to the award of the Pride of Barbados award, the award of Pride of Barbados, and to indicate the gratification that I receive from being here today to be alive to see a measure of this nature come to fruition. I have always believed that Barbadians and others among us, and indeed those who are in the diaspora, who have done wonderful things, let me say what we consider to be ordinary things, but in an extraordinary way, require some form of recognition. And we know that every year awards are extended or conferred, I should say, on a number of persons who have been excellent in whatever they have done. But I believe that this one touches the hearts of even more Barbadians. Indeed, some of the ones and those distinguished individuals who have been honored, we know that at the high overall national level that they have contributed to the distinguished achievements of this country. But there are so many thousands of others who in their villages, in their communities, and wherever they live and work, have given their blood, sweat, and tears to the development of our country. And we call them unsung heroes and heroines, because there are so many women who are a part of the vanguard of doing this kind of service to country. It is no wonder why we want to focus on our motto that is called Pride and Industry, because we are very proud people, sir, who do what we have to do without looking for anything in return. And that is very general. I know thousands of Barbadians living here and abroad who have done wonderful things, and they did not do it because they wanted to have any accolades or anything conferred on them. They did it because that was the genuine way that they would have been nurtured, that they would have been taught, that they would have been encouraged to give back to country. Because we all know that no man is an island, no man stands alone. But when we come together as a collective, then we are able to see what we have done out of the goodness of our heart and the nature that we have, because it has been handed down to us from generations to give, not expecting anything in return. And so today, sir, I am one of the proudest women in this island to have been able to be here to witness the unfolding of this particular award, the Award of Pride of Barbados. And it will be conferred on persons from all walks of life. And I am happy to ensure that as we see this element of it unfold, that I know it will not be about yardfoulism or lackeyism, as some people will say. But I know that this Barbados Labour Party sees people in a holistic way and give to people the honors that are due to them despite whatever color or class or creed or faith-based institution or whatever level they are at. And therefore, I want to lend my wholehearted support to this particular exercise. It has nothing to do with political patronage, but it is to honor persons who worth recognition at whatever level. And I want to refer and reflect, sir, to my childhood, where our parents had 8 and 10 and 15 and sometimes 20 children. But there was this one distinguished midwife in the village who delivered every baby, and seldom did any baby die. Everybody referred to Mrs. Esther Culliman, now deceased, who delivered almost every baby. Lion Castle, Hopewell, Welchmore Hall, Carrington's Village, Chapman's Village, Prout's Village. She lived right there in Welchmore Hall just before you get to the Holy Innocents Anglican Church going down that hill. That is somebody, if she were alive, that I would want to give her name in first, because of the numerous lives that she would have been able to see them come into this world and to save them. And those children have become the proudest individuals in this country, healthy babies, as a result of their late Esther Cullimore's tender, loving care and expertise. No infections, no nothing, because we ate well, and our parents ate well, and they trained us well, and we didn't have any fast food and all kind of nonsense. But Esther Cullimore did what she had to do. May the Lord bless her in her grave. But I'm not going to remain local in St. Thomas, although I can speak of so many other people. Alila Gibbs, who went up to England as a nurse as well, and is one of the most dynamic persons, training individuals on bereavement, talking to them about Alzheimer's, serving at the Gordon Cummins District Hospital as the president of that association, working in the Moravian Church and teaching and caring, and in the community surrounding her, Melrose, she's doing what she has to do from her heart, not expecting anything in return. And that is really our culture. We give and give and give because we acknowledge that there are others who came before, our predecessors, who gave to us without looking back for anything in return. And to me, that is the gist of what is being captured in this bill as we do the debating today. I want to talk of a woman who is not a St. Thomas woman, a woman called Hazel Francis. She was one of the best community development officers I've ever seen in my life, and her performance is par excellence. I would pray, I did not know that she has passed, but if she has passed, that is blessed memory. But I would want for many of our community officers and our welfare officers and so on to tear a leaf out of Hazel Francis's book. And we have a Peggy Antrobus who worked beyond human call to help to develop women and to give women pride of place in this society, that they know that women have worth. I'm not going to touch those who are now dames and so on. They too have done their part. So I'm not going to water down anything, but to say, to heap these accolades on these distinguished women and men and others makes me feel as though I have achieved my goal of asking for the unsung heroes in our communities, our villages, even in our heights, to be recognized in some way at the national level. I want to talk of Ruth Trotman, one of the most profound principles you could ever want at the primary level. And there are so many scores, or I would say hundreds of others, who can do it well. A Peggy McGeary, Mr. Speaker, sir. A Gloria Ford from the Girl Scouts, from the Girls Guides. A Jean Allen, one of the best principals who ever taught mathematics at Erdiston College. I did not know anything about Pythagoras until I went to Erdiston College. I didn't understand it well. And she did it piece by piece by piece until I became exceptionally well doing my mathematics. Because of her.
I remember pi r squared and a squared plus b squared equals c squared.
And that remains, sir. that remains like that, sir, constant, because whatever was taught at up and on was taught at the Modern High School and the Erdiston Teachers Training College, sir. So the university at Waterford hasn't got anything on us. Pythagoras is Pythagoras across the board. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to mention Mrs. Goldie Spieler. And then I'm going to come to some men, because the women and the men do what they have to do. We have had mechanics, fishermen, carpenters, masons, shopkeepers, ironmongers. Is that what the man would be? The person who would be working with the iron, mending the wheels and different pieces of the equipment for the donkey carts and so. Those are persons in our community, sir, who did what they did with pride, and some of them only went to 3rd and 5th standard. Their speech was par excellence compared to what we hear now from people who go to the highest level in our society, where they're into the vernacular in a way that I wonder if they remember what the Queen's English is like. I want to remember, sir, the basket maker Orland, who now lives in Shop Hill, who could weave the best down basket and basket to take to town with the bananas and the breadfruits and the vegetables and so. Those are the persons in our community who require that kind of acknowledgement that other young people can understand. You don't have to have the biggest degree and a PhD to be recognized and to be respected in the community where you live. I want to mention an undertaker called Gabriel Edgell, who did not perhaps even go to secondary school, but some days he has 2 and 3 funerals to deliver, and it is because of how he packages the projects that he has and how he makes up those corpses and so on. One of the best in Barbados, and I can praise him because he's a man I know, and already he knows that if I go before him, my body is his. So I'm just telling you how good he is. I want to mention a man called Aja from Rock Hall in St. Thomas, sir, and Adisa Andweli, and Ian Gibbs, the entomologist, who when you say it, he can tell you, because he is one of the best persons in agriculture you could ever want. Mr. Nichols at Mount Wilton Plantation, who has been working in agriculture for many, many decades and still going strong and doing it exceptionally well, because that is what he is good at. He did not go to any university or anywhere to know the skills. So I am just trying to identify, not only for us, sir, but for the public, the kinds of persons we would want to target. There's a Neville Legal, one of the best artists in the whole of Barbados. There's a Henderson Holder from up in Bloomsbury, sir, who is the first person in the early 1980s that started making chicken nuggets. Uncle Wilbert's, and from the time he lost that particular opportunity because of funding, the big conglomerates have taken over chicken nuggets. But Henderson Holder started it in the early 1980s, and he should be highly commended. All he needed was the input, the cash input, to help him take him to the next level, and somebody took the idea and ran with it. Henderson Holder is one of the persons whom I believe deserve it. And then there's a man called Captain Vernon Watson from the Landship, who deserves that recognition and the cultural area and development of Barbados. And a young man who has no degree, who would not have gone to the Polytechnic or community college or to the skills training, but a young man called Omar Ward from Rock Hall, St. Thomas, right opposite Fire Hill, right opposite where the Freedom Village is. One of the best sculptors you could ever want. He's no more than in his early 30s. And he stays by the church at St. Thomas Parish Church with a little tent, and you can purchase. And he does all this fancy work with the soft stone, Mr. Speaker, sir. We have people of that nature who will never ever get recognized unless we had come with this particular piece of legislation to acknowledge the contributions. And I'm not going to go any further, Mr. Speaker, except to say that we need to do more of this to make our people understand you are an ordinary man or woman, but the extraordinary things you are doing are making a difference and planting knowledge, skill, respect, advice to others whom you will want to emulate what you are doing. And so, Mr. Speaker, I am a strong supporter. And I know that most of our schools' names have been changed, and I'm not advocating the change of any more, because I don't want Holy Innocent School's name to go. No, I don't want Sherwin School's name, or Welch's Primary, or any of those to change. But I know that the schools have different blocks. Some schools have 6 and 7 blocks. And we can choose those blocks, not necessarily to name them after a teacher, but they can be named after the most outstanding school server, the janitor, the watchman. I know some of them, Mr. Speaker, you could trust them with your life, and they made the extra sacrifice to make children comfortable, to make the school environments as safe as possible. I also think, Mr. Speaker, sir, that this kind of exercise will help to lead our people, sir, to become aware of the history of Barbados. They taught me, or I had to read about Columbus, and I have no problem, because we need to reach far beyond our shores. And I knew who was the Prime Minister of St. Vincent way back in the 1960s and 70s, and who had been the Governor General, and so on and so forth. But right here in Barbados, some of our children do not even know the names of the ministers. Let me say, I want to recommend from this distinguished chamber, sir, and I know the honourable member and the Minister of Education is listening, that civics be put back on our schools' syllabus, on the curriculum rather, that our children get to know about Barbados, that they get to know about the icons in this country and the roles that they have played. We cannot be preaching about other people's icons or icons all over the world, or that, although that is good, but not to look within ourselves, see who have been the pillars of this society, and to work with them to let our children know. But who was left of all, though? And therefore, I am a strong proponent of civics as a compulsory aspect of our curriculum in our schools again, so that our children can enjoy the benefits that we enjoyed as children, having to be engaged. And I was one of the persons who became extremely offended, Mr. Speaker, sir, when that general paper that was presented at the common entrance level was withdrawn when another administration came into operation a couple years back. That general paper gave our children even more exposure beyond the civics. And now we're seeing the private secondary schools that are doing maths and English day and night are taking over, and our regular primary schools are struggling because our agendas or our curricula are so packed that some of the children, before they can transfer from one lesson to the next, it is so rushed. I believe that we can do a bit more of educating our people. I want to say, sir, that this is going to help to unleash that spirit of patriotism and volunteerism. I believe, Mr. Speaker, sir, that our community centers, that our pavilions, that our technological locations that we have across the island can come alive again with these icons going into them and mentoring. I had a wonderful experience while training in Israel, sir, to see a component of what was being offered in that particular country, sir, a project called the Grandfather and Grandmother Project. And you know what it was doing? The older folks who had retired, but were still in their right mind, of course, were going into the schools. And in the light that we have few fathers in our households, those grandfathers were there with very small instruments or tools like baby hammers, miniature hammers, let me use that expression, hammers and shovels and different things, interacting with the boys in the school. And the older women were there interfacing and interacting with both the boys and the girls to be able to show them all these things and to transfer that oral history of Israel in their minds. We can do it in Barbados. We have thousands of persons, some retiring at 55 and 60, who are begging to come and work in our institutions to nurture our young children, who sometimes go home because they are latchkey children with a key around their neck. They let themselves in the house, they watch whatever movies they want to, they go on the phone, they get into all kinds of mischief sometimes. We need these same community icons to be given the privilege to go into our schools, our churches, or other institutions. And even at a higher level, it doesn't have to be at the primary schools alone, but also at the secondary schools where it is needed now more than ever, to be able to transfer the knowledge, the skills, the values, and all the other cultural norms that are necessary to make them the proud Barbadians that we know they can be, and to tie in with our motto, pride and industry. Mr. Speaker, sir, I was so happy to have met a distinguished gentleman, and I asked permission to call the name, Kevin Greenidge from Burt. Kevin Greenidge, a Barbadian that I did not know of. I never heard of him until the program was introduced. And he was giving his service across the world. And now we have captured him. There's so many others who have had these students revolving loan. They have become scholarship winners, exhibition winners, and they are somewhere else in the world serving. They are to come back and let our children emulate those scholarship winners and be an integral part of giving back their service to our country, Barbados. And another step is for them, when they are on holiday, to come back home and to mentor some of our children in the summer camps and in the Bible schools and in the various institutions, because a lot of children will want to be like them and they can rub shoulders with them. And there's nothing more enjoyable than rubbing shoulders with others. We see it when our Honourable Prime Minister is moving around. Every little child wants a selfie. We see it when Rihanna is here. We see it when Jason Holt is moving around and all the other distinguished icons at the highest national level. Why can't we let our praises, why can't we let the accolades be showered on those who are in our communities that we know but the youth do not know? Or some of them are getting so old the youth had never heard of the roles that they played in helping to lay the foundations for this country. So, Mr. Speaker, strong community leaders will help to build strong families and villages. And we need now more than ever to focus on our homegrown heroes and heroines and to give them a little more voice and a little more privilege and a little more joy to know somebody has acknowledged the good that I have done, although I did not do it because I wanted to be recognized. I did it from my heart because that is what I was taught by my foreparents. Give and do not look for anything in return. The Bible tells us that. So, Mr. Speaker, for too long, our people, both of the local ones and those in the diaspora, who are making those indelible marks by their selflessness, by the sacrifices they have made, by the loyalty of being proud to say, I'm a Bajan wherever they go in the world, by the service that they have offered, as I said earlier, by their blood, sweat, and tears and resources, by the endurance that they have, by the service and the contribution they have given to Barbados. I support this initiative, sir, and I believe that it will bring even more people to come on board and to bring that kind of cohesiveness to our villages and our institutions so that we can be properly cemented to be the proud Barbadians that we know that we are, and to grow stronger as we go from step to step. And let our youth understand you do not have to be an attorney at law, a teacher, a doctor, an agronomist or whatever for you to be recognized and respected. A lot of young people believe it as a bus driver. Oh, you're only a bus driver. A postman will. And you hear a lot of that. Well, he's only a postman. When I became a senator, sir, one individual, I will not say the sex of the individual or the gender, let me say that, the gender of the person, oh, she's only Joe Ford and Ermin daughter, though. How the Quebec she a senator? Why, no? That is the mentality. Because you have come from nowhere, they believe that you do not deserve to be elevated to another. I am begging the young people across the length and breadth of Barbados, you do not have to go out there and do something negative to be recognized in the newspaper on the front page for stabbing a man, for snatching somebody's wallet, for cursing a police officer. You can be recognized for doing something excellent in your community, like that little boy from St. Leonard's Boys School, sir, about 3 years ago. May the Lord bless him, and I hope that he continues on that trajectory, sir. Picking up the bottles that were used, the drink bottles, cleaning them up, and making funds out of them. Children in the United States and the rest of the world, they have a day where they make lemonade sales. And they show you their entrepreneurial skills developing. They bake cakes and brownies and so on. And the parents set up a little shelf, a little tray in front of the house, and they sell. Barbadian children have that in them, but they are stifled. They hear when you're coming at the door. You come from wherever. I'm not even going to call the name of a community. And that stigma tells that child, you can try as hard as you like, you can score as much as you want, and you are going to be nobody, because from whence you have come, you were saying nothing. The people down there don't really survive. They don't come to be anything. They're just dealing drugs, and they just go and steal, and they just go and rape somebody. That is the mentality. We did not have a Barbados like that before. We have to get back to basics. This is going to help those young men down in New Orleans, those fellas up on Sturgis Corner, those in the Pine, those up in Jameswick, the ones in St. Lucie, the ones in the Ivy, the ones across the length and Barbados, Orange Hill and St. Andrew. I can't leave out St. Andrew. That's where my navel string is kind of hooked up with my grandfather being a St. Andrew man, and a proud one too. But I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, only if we will give the kudos to our youth and to give them the examples that they require. But to hear somebody say, well, he fathered a drunkard, but he ain't gonna be nothing. Your mother used to do this. All kinds of negativities. We need, as a people, steeped in a strong African culture, we need to be able to, what we call, big up our own. Praise people. And when they do wrong, chastise them, but take out the anger and the malice and the level of ignorance that people who get free education should never ever be in those positions. And so, Mr. Speaker, I know my time is running out. I want to express my gratitude to all the distinguished Barbadians and others, visitors who come among us, non-nationals who have come here to live. They have fallen in line by offering and tithing their time and their services. I want to big up, I want to praise, I want to identify those faith-based institutions that help us to become steeped in the various aspects of spiritual growth and development. I want to praise those businesses that give people a chance, especially those who are disabled, especially those who may not be so well educated because they don't have the certificate, but they have pride and they have character. And a good name is rather to be chosen, Mr. Speaker, than riches or gold. And we have seen people who are struggling on a $300 a week, and they will never go to welfare. No, they will never steal or take up. They may ask discreetly, and those are the ones we need to help to put them at that level. But who are we? Who are we here today who have most of us have come through from ordinary origins, where our parents were struggling to raise us, struggling to feed us, struggling to make sure that we get that free education that we have been able to access. And then we suddenly become so proud and so vain and so disrespectful, we have forgotten the village and the icons in the village that helped to raise us, to teach us the discipline, to teach us the respect, the understanding, to help to shape the characters that we now have to be identified as the leaders in this distinguished chamber and at all levels in this country. And so, Mr. Speaker, I want to say thank you to the Barbados Labour Party and to the other institutions that have worked closely with us in our covenant of hope, and all of those other distinguished institutions that have been for many, many generations been standing up for what is correct, what is proper, what is righteous, to be able to build our country that we have come from being lost Barbados to the Barbados that we are here ready to take off again, to be the developed country that we dream that we can be. And the plans and programs that we have put in place, we are going to get there. But we must not leave those distinguished people who might have been in the background, pushing and plodding on. We need to acknowledge their contribution to helping build out this distinguished nation. And so, Mr. Speaker, I am happy, I am a proud woman to be able to have grown up in this society and to see people being propelled to the top through what they have been able to work and achieve and to give back to society. And this is timely, because if we are talking about Vision 2020, this is one of the best aspects or components of vision anybody could want. Because the little old lady down the road who said, I am going to take these 4 little children and raise them in my house because I don't want them to go to the child care board because the mother is a drug addict. I'm going to feed them, I'm going to clothe them, I'm going to work with them, I'm going to go to school with the PTA and support them. We still have people in our society doing that. We still have neighbors that are males that will bring home something in their household, and they know that the neighbors next door are hungry, and they will offer to the household because the children did not have a parent to look after them in that way. And they do it from the genuineness of their heart. I am happy that Barbados still remains a safe and a blessed place where people are offering their services for free lessons, free training for skills and skill development, free advice when you see a little boy languishing and playing the fool. Come back, boy, button your shirt tail, button your shirt, go and get the comb and comb your hair. But the majority of them, Mr. Speaker, you know that you were in the social system, the social work system, and you know you are an attorney at law, sir, and you see it every day. You are a member of parliament, and you would have seen it when you were on the road. And when they see you, they put away whatever nonsense they're doing. They pull up their shirt, pull down their shirts, pull up their pants. Morning, sir. Excuse me, sir, how are you today? Barbadians have always had that culture in them. This is going to help. I close, Mr. Speaker, because I am paining in my heart to know that there are so many who lived in our villages, who enjoyed running around and playing on the pasture, who reared the pigs and the sheep and the goats and the chickens and so on and so forth. And because of the upward social mobility, they have cleansed themselves out of the villages and would not even go back to look for those who helped to ensure that they were fed and clothed and educated. And that is the part that is most difficult. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong, because people who come up and rise up and go out, I am happy because it shows that the free health and the free education and the camaraderie and the spirit of giving and sharing and loving and offering service, it has worked for us. But I'm imploring them, I am encouraging them, I am advising them, come back into our villages. We need you, who are the professors, who are the doctors and the lawyers and the teachers and the police officers and so on. Come back into the villages and help us with these young children so we can minimize the number of our young men and women who are falling through the cracks because the mentors that they require are missing. I am begging those fathers, if they hadn't gone out with the partner, the female partners, there would not be any child for them. Come back and still give the child something, even if the mother put you on taxes. Because there are reasons why some women will do it, because they have no other source of getting any assistance for those children. But because you have doubts, it does not mean that the child should not have a mentor. You were there for the mother, be there for the child as well. I am not going to get in it any legal way. I don't mind what the honourable member for St. Andrews says next to me. Perhaps his name had been called, but we don't know. However, Mr. Speaker, I want to say, in really good Bajan parlance, those who get up and leave and don't look back, they climb up the ladder and they kick it down. And that is a Barbadian expression that some of them don't even know. So I hope they were here today. To climb up the ladder and kick it down says, you have climbed it, taken it to your advantage, but you have forgotten those whom you left behind. That helped to put you to go from round to the next to get to the top of the ladder. And you know, favorite one of my foreparents, when you spit up in the air, it's land back in your face slow. I don't know if the scribes will capture what the words are. But when you spit up in the air, you better run fast, because by the time that spit comes down, so it says you're back at square one, you're spitting on yourself. So it says that the knowledge that you would have acquired is not working for you in the way that it should. I want, Mr. Speaker, to conclude, because let us encourage people to come back to the villages, come back to the communities, return to us, to embrace our youth, to engage them, to help to empower them. And it does not have to be your relative. It can be the total stranger. It can be that child who is just looking for somebody to give a pat on the shoulder. My boy, come back. You're going to be a great child. I can see it. I can hear from your speech. I can tell from your demeanor. I can tell from your deportment. And that is another area that we need to look at. Deportment.
The honourable member has 1 more minute.
I got 1 minute. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's all I need. When we were in school, when I was in the classroom, we looked for the child deportment. Punctuality, regularity, good discipline. I do not know if that still happens, but I pray that it will. But if it is not happening in the school, we can do it in the churches. We can do it in the community centers. We can do it in the pavilions. We can do it in our backyards. We can do it in our patios. We can do it in the corner that they now call the block. I used to go by the corner line too, but there was good discipline. And people there will tell you, that man is cursing, you leave little boy, you leave little girl. And that is how our villages have been. I want for us to get back to basics. I'm a proud Barbadian, Mr. Speaker, and will continue to root for the poor, the disenfranchised, the youth, the aged, and all others who have given their blood, their sweat, and their tears to be able to build this society, to make it the just society we know it is, to make it the productive society we know it has been. And then when we are finished, all of us as Barbadians here and out there and wherever we are in the world can leave a legacy behind, because we acknowledge that these fields and hills beyond recall are still our very own, and they can only continue to be our very own after the 300 years that we mentioned in the anthem is here. But they can be our very own for the next 1,000 years or so. The Bible tells us, Mr. Speaker, sir, as long as you do it to these my children, you do it unto me. Love one another, for love is of God. I wish to thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member, Mr. Michael East.
Mr. Speaker, this special order, I have to say a few words about his worthiness being placed on individuals, both alive and those who have gone on and made a major contribution. I am not a person that be entitled to such things in my lifetime or thereafter. So I'm not speaking about my own selfish interests. Sir, these things are significant to human beings, especially poor people. I speak as a Gap boy. I am no Harzonian. I never went to Cumberland, and when I said the minibus on my way to secondary school, I have not been.
I heard a site, pay no attention to that site.
Yeah.
It was just uttered.
Yeah, in other words, sir,
Pay no attention to that site.
I am who I am. Not institutionalized or search for the institutions to validate me in any way. So I'm a Gap boy. I know what is patches. I know what it is to have on the khaki parts with a blue seat and a red crutch. I know what it is to be out in the yard at night, fighting with the rats and the roaches in order to express my freedoms. Sir, when things like this occur, sometimes I hope that we recognize the seriousness of what we're doing. This is going to mean a lot. We have had a most unfortunate historical past, especially in our pre-colonial period. A people who have been not just without nationality, but without human status. We were not even perceived as human beings, and I want to keep reinforcing that to all the black men in these chambers, especially black men and women that know we have that African pigmentation. Because even though you feel that you are somebody, there are many people, even of your own, still don't recognize you as significant in this society. And we have been fighting this fight for a long time. And we have done everything to reverse the psychological damage. We ask questions, but who are your kings and queens? Who are your men of high affairs? We talk about man know thyself. All of these things to give us a feeling of belonging and of worthiness. I don't even know if today any of those messages have been able to get through to the psyche of these people whose brains have been damaged since the days of slavery and colonialism. There are still many of us who can't even understand giving an honor to our own. And when I say our own, I'm not talking about who had a great education. I'm not talking about those who raped the state over the years and accumulate wealth. There are people who contributed. However they put it, even in relation to Rihanna, it is about the natural ability and the creative talent that has made her what she is. We have had great people in the 20th century, like the greatest cricketer on the face of the earth, still stands as the greatest cricketer and still the only living hero that we have. He cannot boast of the things that many of us boast about today. Struggling from in the Bayland, struggling on Bay Pastor to play the game of cricket, but revealing and manifesting a sense of genius that men with all the academic background, especially in mathematics and skills that one may argue, and physics that one might believe is required in order to understand what pace you ought to bowl a ball at, and if you hit it on the outside of the stumps and you hold it within the seam or whatever, how the ball likely to go left, right, left, or come off on the leg side of the ball. But now, these are natural skills that this human being has been endowed with from a divine force. Can only be. You didn't inherit that from parents. No special training. And many of the people that we admire that achieve these things did not come through any type of formal training in order to be at the stage in life that they are at today. I've watched many young men who never made contact with Boothagen, Bob, going to Her Majesty's prison. I know that, sir, the Barbadian public don't like me to talk about people who have been incarcerated. And I talk about these same people that would distort everything that I say regardless of how well I put it. Because the intention is always to demonstrate that the Gap boy has no sense. And a political party can't have a Gap boy in it, playing a ministerial role, and he's really functioning in a position where he's not worthy of. Not even because of intelligence, because of the way and the humble circumstances in which the man was born. Sir, I tell you from the front, I am a Gap boy. I am not ashamed about that. I can't boast Sunset Crest. I can't boast Sandy Lane. I can't boast Prior Park. But I know when people get into these communities, the heads get funny. All of a sudden it becomes subhuman in the system. And you can't do nothing that is right. You can't. Regardless of how you try, you can't do nothing that is right. All of a sudden you escape from the bowels of the earth. And all of a sudden you're a newborn and a new species. So when these things occur, we must not do them in order to manipulate the minds of the vast majority of people in our society. So when I see you in your position, and I am fortunate to be a witness in modern Barbados to see a man with locks sitting in the chair of Barbados, I never thought I would ever see it. It is that kind of trajectory that should form the essence of what we are doing here. It is that trajectory that is grounded in the struggles in the Caribbean of the 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th, and 20th century. Where people look at us and say, you are not human. You have no history. In other words, you are nobody. You understand what we mean to the present young generations and generations that are unborn? If we now come to the stage where we say, and this should have been done since November 1966. We should be on track. When we broke the back of colonialism in the fights that preceded 1966, we should have had a national agenda that level of national consciousness to come along with it. Rather than talk about Humpty Dumpty. We should be a serious people. We should have the educational system at that point. We should be sitting down and saying, this is the kind of knowledge we need to impart or imbue in our people so that they can feel a sense of pride and a sense of belonging and feel equal to everybody. Our children today, when they see certain people, or even if they see you in a tie, especially a bow tie with cufflinks and a big jacket on, and they're talking to you, they're looking out at the big toe. They can't stare your eyes for a good conversation because they feel inferior. The clothing that you have on alone says, this is a big man, I can't talk back to this man, so you hold their head. Now if you, in a moment of aggression, when the external facts don't influence the behavior, he will tell you anything. But if that child has to come face to face with you, he does not have the courage, he does not have the self-confidence. And I think that the last person who spoke before me was trying to get to a point of that nature. The lack of self-confidence began to talk about civics. The lack of self-confidence in our people from here on. As we do these things, it tells me that there's a connection with the struggles of the 30s. There's a connection with the Marcus Garvey era. There's a connection with the W.E.B. Du Bois era. There's a connection with the Sylvester Williams era, George Padmore era. It's a sense of consciousness, a thread that runs through Caribbean people and their thoughts. And we cannot honestly say that as from today, we are going to honor people and don't understand the work that people like Israel Lovell has done in the battle for our liberation and that sense of consciousness. We cannot say that unless we take into consideration the struggles of the UNIA, the Workers' Men Association, and we are human beings. We are not beasts. We are human beings. And we have a history, and we can remember our history. We're going to have to honor those persons. Those persons' lives will remain immortal. They are as relevant today as they were in the 1920s and the 1930s. The Basel Revolt, it only means something if you could connect what happened in 1816, you could connect what happened in 1876, you could connect what happened in 37, you could connect what happened in 1966, and even in 1951. You have to be able to understand at each stage we become richer in our consciousness of the importance of who we are. And we learn to appreciate the value of people on the basis of merit. Nobody had no special privileges. Nobody don't talk. And people at home hearing a man talking, he went to school with Hutchinson, and he went to school with this body. I just talking, just calling him. But you went to school with these people, so you really believe you really went to school in truth. But you don't tell anybody you went to school with me, Bombast, or Trevor Prescott, or Johnny my boy. These fellas went to school with Hutchinson. You understand it? And that alone validates them. And you have had people talking to them day in and day out throughout the centuries, people losing their lives, fighting for that sense of consciousness. And if we cannot come now and make this look as some cosmetic exercise. There's like a man that refused to feed his woman. Where the day come, he won't buy rice, he won't buy chicken, but he going to get a whole set of roses for Valentine's Day and get the woman, and he won't let go at the food. It can't work that way. It can't work that way. When we do these things, they must mean something to people. People must be able to feel a sense of pride. This here is equally as important as anything that has been handed down as a colonial symbol. This is where Barbadians, genuine Barbadians, I'm talking about who went for a document in the immigration department and come out. That is a different type of Barbadian. I'm talking about people who were born here, work here. My mother had a rum shop. I know what we're talking about. My father had a rum shop. I know what we're talking about. I live inside a rum shop. I know what we're talking about. You can't want more, you can't want a greater and a richer assembly than a rum shop. And when it was coming up, my mother used to carry me to Brother meeting hall. And the pastor was only a human being, and evidence at a later date showed that he was only a human being. So I don't get mystified by anybody easily, neither by a tie, neither by a collar. Don't get mystified by these things. We need to develop a society that feels that sense of equality and that sense of belonging. Nobody likes to live a life knowing that they are not recognized, knowing that they are not wanted. That is a simple maxim that should guide all human beings. Everybody must feel a sense of belonging, feel that somebody wants them, that somebody can respect them. But what you have is in this society is a lot of mercenaries walking around doing all kind of wicked things in order to get a week's pay, in order to find favors with other people so they could get a free chicken leg, or they could drink in somebody's place that normally they would not be welcome, and then they go on stage and become the star by buffoonery, laughing and skinning out of term, eating about people's food and talking about the foolish and talking people's names. That's what happened in this country. You try to build a country. You talk about nationhood. You talk about a national hero square that got him named Nelson. That's buffoonery. Reality. It can't be true. And we are in a country where even if we tomorrow morning say, I would love to move him, you can't move him because the forces that wants to hold on to control is determined that you can't move him. With all the historic documents telling you what he is saying to you when he stands out there, that don't care where you go, don't care how many people vote for you, you should never be in this House Assembly. That was his teaching, you know? Not in those words. But when a white man just like him, Wilberforce, got up and fought on the behalf of our people, black people, he was strongly opposed to the freedoms. It is recorded in Capitalism and Slavery by Art Williams. It was mentioned by C.L.R. James. The evidence is here. We made efforts on more than one occasions. And then the forces that be, who are validated because of the accumulation of wealth, not on any merit. These people could make roads. These people could build houses. They could break tunnels. They know to deal with iron. They know to deal with, they're involved in climate change. They can't talk to me because I'm an eco-socialist. My adaptation in modern times, I'm an eco-socialist. So even while I am responsible for environment, I talk about environment in relation to how it relates to human development. I am not going to waste time trying to learn technical terms. I'm dealing with all things in my life as long as it can relate itself to human development. So at the end of the day, you will hear me talking about climate change. But I want to know how it can affect the lives, first, of poor people, who will be the first victims in the exercise. How it would affect the homes of poor people, who would be the first victims in that exercise. Because you must be consistent. You must be consistent. We have to make a difference. Even when we want to honor people, we have to make a difference. You don't just do things, you don't just fool people. You have to be real. You have to ask yourself, is this what we're doing serious? To be truthful, I am surprised that I didn't see a document with a little more flesh on it. Right? Because the document a little flimsy. So we have to put the flesh on it based on the contributions which we are making here. But I really respect the idea of a government who can understand that we now have, regardless of what challenges we are facing as a consequence of a colonial past or a neo-colonial situation as we are in at present, where we got to dance to the music of people when small states attempt to do certain things with the greatest amount of commitment. The reality is that there are external forces that can force us to dance to the music. These are real issues. And when we begin to talk about the things that we're doing, we got to be able to understand our commitment to the whole elevation of our people. Look, this is not a tangible thing. This is not somebody winning lotto. But we have to let the public know how serious we are. If we can recognize Mingo Phillips, if we are open enough to recognize Winter Crawford, Danny Gregg, Macy's Chase, Macy Cox, if some of the ordinary men that are doing great things in Barbados in the area of sports, so I'm not going to tell you that this year must be fashion based on the academic achievements of anyone. It has to stretch. I don't even think that was mentioned, but let us hope that it reaches in a very infinite manner as far as is possible. So people who excel in culture, in science, in education, in spirituality, whatever. Honor Rastafari man, honor Granville Williams, a religious institution that fought hard with all the encumbrances that came from the traditional religious institutions. He fought for recognition for the Spiritual Baptist Church. Should we now come to the conclusion that we don't have to honor him because he died before this bill? I'm saying, let us also reach back and see the persons who made meaningful contributions even before we had the privilege of coming here. I personally feel that Granville, you now go across Barbados, and the entire nation, you find it, little dots all across, especially Christchurch area and the St. Michael's areas, and I'm assuming that it will stretch itself eventually into St. Peter. The church in Christchurch might be like the parent church, but there are many different units across Barbados. And when Granville Williams first came on the scene, there was a lot of negative views about him.
I remember 3 coins in the fountain.
3 coins in the fountain. People felt that if you go to that church, he was going to a church that really is made up for backward people. So nobody, because the boy at that church don't got a bow tie. People went in there barefooted. Williams opened up himself to what some people call ex-cons. People with psychological scars. People who came from the same mental. He opened up himself to help these people because he knew what he knew, that they were human beings. And these people went on to do great things in their lives, stabilize their lives, sometimes never went back to the institutions. These things here, you hear about the Commonwealth this, something to do with the crown, something to do with Elizabeth, something to do with Trump. You have what is called the pride, right? The pride of Barbados. That gives about a sense of dignity. That my own people recognize my contribution. No, I'm besting going there. They want me there. They want me there. I always believe that I come in to do something to well, it is what the honourable member for the city has said, probably if they introduce the order of the breadfruit or the yam, but not the pride of not the pride of so the reality, look, we got a nation. Well, you see, we are not too far. For some people in life, we are not so far divided from the monkey. That's the reality. You might be able to go to a barber. You might be able to go to a barber and got an advantage for the monkey because you get razor marks. But the reality is that for some people in this country, you're the monkey, especially the evolutionists. You're the monkey. Got all the basic characteristics. They will tell you that the same, if you train the monkey the same way they train you, they will not be able to make a distinction. If you're the monkey, you run across the field. There's Bobby says, treat us, right? So I really wanted just to say a few words on this. But if we can work as a political party to continue on their train, where we try to integrate, to be genuinely inclusive, to be genuinely able to respect the contribution of our people, regardless of the origin of the individual, regardless of if the individual can speak what we are normally judged by as somebody, whether the individual can speak standard English and understand if you put has with the first and second person, or if you put it with the third person singular. You know, this language is communication, you know. But there are people once in this country, and you can speak Latin, although they had the boys to talk to for the face of the earth, right? But the boys they talk it, but a few clones, right? If you speak Latin and speak Greek, you feel it with somebody. Nowadays, this country that was a one language country that was talking about introducing Spanish into schools about nearly 25 decades. And St. Lucian's talking Patois, they're talking French, they're talking English, Africans talking 8 languages and all kinds of things. And all these people supposed not to be equivalent to them, you know. So we're supposed to be the most intelligent people in the Caribbean on the face of the earth. All of that mythology, people rejoice talking about it. I believe that we have an excellent opportunity. We have an excellent opportunity as a new government. Probably, fortunately for us, we don't face the disturbance of an opposition force. We should be able to think as widely and as objectively as possible. We should be able to make a distinction about how we feel about our people and what kind of country we want to build. We should give people the self-confidence that at every step along the way, one generation after another will make a contribution to the ultimate development and national consciousness of our people. Not just materially, but psychologically, not just dollars and cents, but psychologically as well. I believe that this, as we go through the selection process, and we demonstrate to the people that we were genuine about what we're doing here, we make a distinction between the political divide between those of the past, and not even talk about those of the past of one specific political party, because political parties got people of all different types mixed up in them. It's a kind of political cobbler pot that exists. So you're going to get 2 people representing a specific interest, 3 representing another interest, and I probably the masses sometimes don't even know who's the best body for them to support, because they get confused, because they use now the description of the institution itself, and don't even understand that sometimes they play with the enemy or don't love the institution. All this happens in this place. But I really strongly believe that, for me, this is, well, some people might consider it to be superficial. Some people will, trust me, right? I consider this to be one of the most fundamental pieces of legislation, whether dealing with the head, the psyche. This is one of the most important pieces of legislation that I believe that we have brought to the House Assembly. And the economists might not agree with me on that. Others who are interested in government and politics might not believe in that. Others who are steeped in religion might not believe in that, but I strongly believe this is a piece of legislation that says a lot about where we're going as a political dispensation, and I want to give the administration to which I belong my 100% support on this bill coming before the House Assembly. So, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for my small intervention.
Honourable Member for St. Philip West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I must say that every time I come into this chamber and I have the opportunity to listen to the Honourable Member for St. Michael East, it reminds me of a Michael Jackson song. It says, "You are not alone." And I want to take this opportunity to lend my support to this bill because, as the Honourable Member said and others have spoken in this chamber, this is a very important piece of an initiative to change centuries, not just years, but centuries of miseducation, misunderstanding, and in some cases misfortune that would have visited itself upon the people of this country. There are two fundamental things that play a very significant role in why we are here today doing this. One, undeniably, would have been slavery. And I know a lot of people feel very uncomfortable talking about this particular aspect of our history, but your history is your history. And even though none of us in this room felt it, were responsible for it, any of those things, it reverberates from one generation to the next in terms of number of times how we think collectively, how we behave to each other collectively, and even how we relate to people in the rest of the world. The second institution which people don't pay a lot of attention to, which in my opinion really is slavery but with a different name, was colonialism. Because in colonialism, not only were people of African descent suppressed by colonial masters, but the very persons from England, from Ireland, from Scotland, from India, from various places that were also part and parcel of the great British Empire suffered. And I say that to say this. What this award seeks to do, without saying it openly, is to give every single person, I'm going to repeat it again, every single person, regardless of color, class, creed, ethnicity, whatever word you want to use, it gives them a sense of being able, or at least it opens them up to being recognized as a Barbadian for their contribution. And the interesting thing, Mr. Speaker, that I like most about it is that the word pride stands at the forefront of it. The pride of Barbados, not the pride of somewhere else. The pride of Barbados. And for me, just thinking about it in those terms, there's no way that one can trivialize this particular award or even seek to make it a political issue. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition stated early that he felt that the numbers that would be granted this award every year were too many. But my question to him and to anyone else who actually feels the same way would be, how many is too many when you're seeking to repair damage that has been done for centuries to people? How many is too many when you're trying to change a mindset that has been part and parcel of the Barbadian dialogue for a very long time? I'll give you a classic example, and many of you in here may have suffered it or may have heard it for a long time. This society, like it or not, and we have to speak truth, has a record of our people being able to say things to the effect like this: this politician was a good politician, but this sports person could bat real good, but this priest was a good man, but. And each time that a but is put at the end of the sentence, you know that it's going to be qualified with something negative, because we find it difficult to leave it at the stage where it says this was a good person, because we have been taught not to value the contribution of ourselves. And this is not relegated to any ethnic group. This is Barbadians across the board. In case people don't know, or some of us forget, this island was born out of ugliness. It was a land where, from North America, what people refer to as Native American Indians were sent to this place in exile. People from Scotland and Ireland were taken out and sent to Barbados in exile. African slaves were escorted from their lands by force to this land, also in exile. You don't exile people to somewhere that's nice. You exile people to somewhere where it is probably hell on earth. And to see where this country has come, by the sweat, the blood, the tears, and the consciousness of all of its people, it is a feat, Mr. Speaker, that is worthy of recognition. It is a feat that is worthy of praise. And I believe that this award, in the way that it's structured, in the way that it gives the general population a chance to be in the process of determining whom within their parish they see as being worthy of this award, begins the process of including a cross-section of people. And unlike, I don't want to divide it into rich and poor, because that would be doing it a disservice. But it gives every single group on this island a chance to contribute to this, and a chance to also be recognized. You cannot want anything better when you begin to talk about shaping a national identity. The inclusiveness, for me, is the most important aspect of this all. But if there's one or two things that I would like to add to this which are not in the bill, having been born in England myself, that there is a diaspora, second, third, fourth, fifth generation Barbadians in different parts of the world who make contributions to the country. And it would like those persons also to be recognized within this. And the honorable member is saying that this is it. And then I think the honorable member for St. Michael East spoke about it also. And I'd like to reiterate that we must never forget those who went before us. And if there is room for conferring this award on persons who have passed on, I think we really would have made a significant stride in being able to correct some of the wrongs that have been done in the past. And when I talk about some of the wrongs that have been done in the past, and I smiled when the honorable member for St. Michael East spoke about the different classes. And this is a problem that Barbados has and has had for a long time, one which people feel very uncomfortable talking about. But it is one that I will talk about whenever I get a chance to talk about it. Because for a 6-year-old child to leave the seat of deceit called Britain to come to Barbados for a better life, one, or simply to be accepted for who he was based on his skin color, to have the opportunity to have a proper education, to have the opportunity to mingle amongst a majority of people that resembled himself, but to find that he had to struggle with not racism now, but classism, another beast, which one would think by 2019 we will be able to get rid of, but still continues to grapple this country by its throat. It is important that when we talk about this award, that you see it as part and parcel of an effort to release that stranglehold. Because I said the inclusiveness of it is the most important aspect as far as I am concerned. Colonialism, and I gotta go back to that, is one of those systems where a person or group of persons' self-determinism is eroded. Somebody else chooses for you. Hence, as the minister say, you have Lord Nelson. Hence, you have a lot of the things that we still hold on to facing us today. But whenever you get the opportunity to make decisions for yourselves, by yourselves, that is the ultimate of freedom for the human being. And even a child, Mr. Speaker, seeks freedom. You have a baby, you put it in your arms, sometimes you're rocking it, it is very good and it's cool. And then all of a sudden you'll find as it grows, it needs you to hold it less and less. It's wiggling, trying to get out. Or you're walking down the road with it, don't want you to hold a hand and running and think. Freedom is part and parcel of the human being. Freedom to do, freedom to think, freedom to be. And if this country, with all of the things that we continue to talk about, getting the economy right, getting water sorted out and all the other things, if you don't get the mind sorted, all of those things will come to naught. And so I see this as a major step in us being able to get the mind right. For us to break those shackles, for us to be able to look at someone else and say, I believe that you have done a good service to your community, to your country, and to me personally. And I can put your name forward for an award. An award that's not based on academic achievement, it's not based on who you are, which family tree you come out of. It's just based on you being the person that you are and making the contribution. And pride in industry, as we always said, this Pride Award does not come without industry, because you can't get it unless you've done something that is worthwhile. So it ties back in with our national motto quite nicely. And these are the type of examples, and these are the type of things that we want our young people to aspire to. Because if across every parish we can have 10 persons, doesn't matter if they're old, doesn't matter if they're young, every year being awarded, it spreads. So year after year, just keep imagining, year after year, 10 more. 10 in the diaspora, 10 at home. 10 in the diaspora, 10 at home. What you're doing is you're creating a chain, you're creating a link. People are touching people. And if you take the baddest man in the world and move him out of the environment that he's in and put him in a different environment where people behave in a different way, 99.9% of the time, he will change to suit the environment that you place him in. Because at the core of it is what? Survival. And so if we begin through this small act, because it's a small act with big implications, because it ain't taking nothing much for us to come in here and pass this. But the implications of it, and once it is implemented, will reverberate in this country for years to come. And so, Mr. Speaker, while there are others who would want to see this as nothing, I am tempted to sing "Oh Happy Day." Very much tempted to sing "Oh Happy Day." Because it's important that we begin to let our people know that there's more to life than the acquisition of wealth. That the human being needs more. Every single one of us, regardless of where you are in life, regardless of your station, needs appreciation. Man is a social being. It is seldom that you will see people who are normal exist without some sort of appreciation from others. That's why people have pets. When they say they can't deal with people, they have pets. What do you have pets? Because pets will appreciate you. Unconditional love. It is something that every human being craves. And so this award, this is for appreciation. You know, when I was going through it, something hit me. And I thought of the word, well, coined the phrase, the ARC. But not with a K, but with a C. A-R-C. Appreciation, recognition, and commendation. This is what you want. In the biblical ark, that was a place of safety for people. In this ark, it's also a place of safety for your people. It's a place of refuge from all of the other things that might be happening around you. But when a person knows that they are being recognized for the good work that they have done, not for their skin color, not for their achievements in business, not for their academic achievements, but for who they are at the very core. A good person, a good neighbor, an upright citizen. The things that sometimes seem not to count for much these days around the world. And 166 square miles can't get it right. It speaks volumes. It speaks volumes of this particular political party too. Because some years ago, this same party took a step which I still consider as being a masterstroke when it created National Heroes Day. Yeah. I talk about it all the time. Wherever I travel, I talk about it. Because if you cannot recognize heroes amongst yourselves that different generations can aspire to be like or even surpass, you do yourself a disservice, especially after independence, because no one is forcing anything on you now. But if every time you wake up in the morning you have to look at the TV and your hero is somebody else in some other part of the world, some of them don't look like you will have world heroes, I give in to that. But if you have people who do not even understand your own culture, and that is your hero, two worlds completely different, struggles completely different. But then you have people among you doing great things, making strides, changing lives, inspiring a nation, and you can't recognize them because what? Because you could wake up every morning and probably pass them on Broad Street, so they can't be a hero. What are you saying? That the realm of the hero or the realm of the good citizen can only exist outside of these 166 square miles? That is self-defeatist in its nature. Because there is an ongoing battle that people in this country have to face. I've said it once and I will say it again. When you find yourself in any of the major world indexes and all of these other things that we talk about, recognitions and what, and people put you in a category of third world and all these kind of things, I always ask, who makes the rules? How do we come up with these things? What contribution did we make to it in terms of recognizing somebody as the first world, second world, or third world, or fourth, or fifth, or sixth if they ever decide to go there? On whose standards are these things put together? And if you don't fit into the standard, well, why do you accept these things? I certainly don't accept nobody telling me that I come from a third world country. You be talking to a wall. Say don't. And I don't care when the academics talk about, oh, it's measured by this and it's measured by that. I don't come from a third world country. I never will. As far as I'm concerned, this is the first world. Or, if we get real technical, there's no first, second, or third world. This is the world. And so these are the things that we're going to have to be able to combat and think outside of the box. And I know that there are people who are very comfortable with the way it is because they've benefited from it. From this, I guess the best word I could use in something is, in Barbadian parlance, is low rating of ourselves. Some people benefit from it. But it is what it is. And the time has come when all Barbadians, and I will stress this as long as I have breath in my body, all Barbadians, but political persuasions aside, religious beliefs aside, there are just some things that all of us have to be a part of. This is one of those times where we must not try to score political points, when we must think in the best interest of the country in which all of us live. And so, Mr. Speaker, again, I just want to throw my entire support behind this bill. I think this is going to be a monumental moment for the people of Barbados, and I'm just glad that I have the privilege of being part and parcel of a parliament and a cabinet that is making this happen. And with those few words, I'm obliged to you, sir.
Honourable Member for St. Lucie.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I stand to lend my wholehearted support to this bill here today. And indeed, I certainly will not be long, but I could not let this opportunity pass by without speaking and letting the west of Barbados know that this is a watershed moment in the history of this country. Mr. Speaker, sir, for years now, as a matter of fact, I will just roll back to about 9 years ago, at that point in time, as the chairperson of the St. Lucie Parish Independence Committee, we did a project where we wanted to highlight certain aspects of the constituency. I remember very well that project was called Lucie, Her Places, People, and Prospects. And during the course of that exercise, Mr. Speaker, sir, we were able to identify a number of people that we call icons who had made a very significant contribution to the parish, to life in the parish, to helping people in many, many different ways. And then again, Mr. Speaker, sir, in 2016, when we celebrated our 50th anniversary of independence, we thought under this same committee that we would honor at least 50 persons within the parish that had made a very marvelous, a very good contribution to the parish as it was then, as it is. Mr. Speaker, sir, the fact that this bill has come here today, and that the fact that this is an award which will come into being from 2020, Mr. Speaker, in January, speaks volumes to the foresight of this Barbados Labour Party administration. Indeed, it speaks volume, and I must say, to the foresight of our leader, who indeed has conceptualized what we now know, and we now are all excited about the regathering project, which starts in January 2020 and runs for the entire year. And I am honored to be able to lead off the charge in that celebrations. As a matter of fact, I also feel excited, Mr. Speaker, that if these awards, as I understand it, will be presented in each parish from January, therefore St. Lucie will be the first parish, and will go down in history as the first parish to be presenting these awards. And it is something that we are all very proud about, and we must be proud about as a nation. The ordinary people, very often, and as I sit down, as I sat over the years, and we heard of the Independence Awards, we heard of the New Year's Awards, we heard of the Queen's Birthday Honor Awards, and all these kind of things. And you wondered, and you saw people within your area who had made significant contributions. And it seemed that these people were overlooked because these type of awards were for a certain sect, a certain group, or cater to people in a certain strata of society in certain instances. But I'm happy today, Mr. Speaker, that with the passage of this bill, it brings into effect the fact that the ordinary person from communities across Barbados, whether it be in Checker Hall, St. Lucie, in Ruby, St. Philip, whether it be in Bonnets, Britons Hill, whether it be in Six Roads, St. Philip, anywhere, all across this country, Mr. Speaker, the ordinary person will benefit twice. One, the ordinary person will be able to nominate his peer or her peer for such awards, and also those persons that would normally, or we feel would have been, or will feel overlooked, would have the opportunity over a period of time to be honored in this respect. And I must also join with my colleague, Mr. Speaker, sir, from St. Philip West, and ask the question of the opposition leader, how many is too many? We have thousands of Barbadians out there, and the fact that I would want to even add in some instances, or find out, rather, if we could have, you know, it would have been nice, it would have been nice if we could even have some posthumous awards in this regard. Because there are persons that have gone, has departed this earth, that have made a very, very significant contribution to this country, very significant contribution in their district, Mr. Speaker, sir. I recall, and we talk about the shopkeeper. I know shopkeepers from when I was going to school, who every day provided for children who were less fortunate. I know persons, Mr. Speaker, sir, who did their very best, and without whom many of our scholars today would not have made it, because their parents were not able to support. But these people gave selflessly and willingly, and they nurtured many across this country. And I am happy today, Mr. Speaker, for such an award like this. I have, and I went back to my 2016 list of awardees, because I still haven't thrown away the information, and I have numerous more. As a matter of fact, myself and my neighbor from St. Peter, as we are preparing, because we're leading off for the regathering, and we were looking through our respective parishes. When the honourable member for St. Peter saw what I had, he went home and he began to do some homework, because he couldn't believe that there would have been so many icons in St. Lucie who would have made such a significant contribution. He is still trailing in the background nonetheless, you know, as he comes. But the truth is that it makes us as members of parliament and constituency representatives, you know, to look at those persons within our respective areas who have made contributions and significant contributions at the community level and also at the national level, because their contributions at the community level have helped us tremendously at the national level, Mr. Speaker, sir. And I just want to say that I commend the Honourable Prime Minister. I commend the Cabinet of Barbados, of which I'm proud to be a part, for so agreeing to this award coming on stream from as early as next year, and for which many Barbadians will be proud, because I know how the ordinary person in the village, in the district feels when they are recognized. Sometimes if you just go to give them a visit and you tell them thanks for being so, they are so appreciative. How much more an award when they will be presented with an award for the effort, and they will recognize that they are now being recognized for the effort and the contribution that they have made over the years to the respective parishes. Mr. Speaker, I will close by saying I endorse this bill. I support it 100%, and I stand and I will be proud once it goes as it's planned to be the first member of parliament to present awards to his constituents. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for St. Peter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, the Northern Alliance, I like the adage used by the honourable member for the city, and I'm proud to be part of the Northern Alliance. We plan to be an alliance for many terms to come. And so we are working together to make sure that happens. But Mr. Speaker, today we are debating something that I consider to be very important. I know the Honourable Member for St. Michael East spoke to the size of the bill. And while it is true that it is a relatively short bill, 46 clauses, it is of tremendous importance. And I could not, as the Minister with responsibility for the third sector and developing the third sector, a sector that is built upon people who have significant and tremendous passion, I could not allow the debate to conclude without making some kind of input. Now, I want to say to you, Mr. Speaker, that, well, I really am echoing all the contributions that have been made today when I say that recognizing people who have contributed to anything is important. Saying thank you is important. And my friend, the Honourable Member for St. Michael West, and he is still my friend, would tell you that Jesus asked the question when, well, I'm not talking about the prodigal son today. We will talk about him soon enough when he attempts to make his way back. But I want to talk about the lepers. I know Jesus healed 10, one came back to say thanks. And Jesus asked, where are the other 9? Because there's a recognition that saying thank you is important. We call it in the country, in St. Peter and in Rosehill, we call it manners. Saying thank you. Because it is something basic to human beings. As a matter of fact, I would say to the Honourable Member for St. Michael East, that beside razor marks, that would separate us from that other species that the evolutionists may think that we black people come from. But we are able to say thank you. And as a government, we believe that we ought to be saying thank you to those people who have worked hard to develop their families, their communities, and ultimately their nations. And the criteria in this bill for the award of the Pride of Barbados speak to sacrifice, diligence, dedication to service, outstanding contribution to community life, improved economic and social conditions. Mr. Speaker, Barbadians across the centuries have been fighting and struggling and working hard for these very things listed as the criteria by which we will make decisions on who will be awarded. Well, we, meaning Barbadians generally, will make decisions on who will be awarded the Pride of Barbados. Barbadians over the centuries. I am not familiar with Barbadians, let's say from the 19th century, but I want to say to you, Mr. Speaker, that in the research that the Honourable Member for St. Lucie referred to, and he is correct that when I saw his information, I was forced to go and do some homework. He is correct. He does not speak lies. In my research, I found out something that I did not know before I did the research. I had always thought, Mr. Speaker, that the martyrs of the 1937 People's Uprising were all from the St. Michael or Southern St. James or Christchurch area. Until doing the research, I realized that 4 of them were from St. Peter. These are people, 4 people, 3 from Boscobel and 1 from Sherman's. 4 people who laid down their lives so that we could be, whether we are in, well, there are no bow ties here, but whether we are in long ties or Nehru collars, that we and those who look like us can be sitting in here today. that we can have active, vibrant trade unions, that we can have an orderly society that allows for people, even though there's still work to be done, but that allows for people to achieve in whatever area they want to achieve in this society. And so I want to say that these are people who, having given their lives selflessly, because these kinds of fights are not selfish fights. When a person is martyred for a cause, that person has laid down their lives, or that person has laid down their life for those of us who follow after and who have the privilege of standing and walking on their shoulders. And I am fully in support of a society being put in a position where it can say thank you to those who have done human service for their country. I want to submit that to be able to say thank you for our country and its people, to be able to say thank you, is a sign of maturity. It is a sign that we have reached the stage where we are happy to look at each other and say, you have done a good job, well done, even as we look forward to the well done, good and faithful servant. But that we are able to say thank you to those who have contributed means a lot as I think about what a mature country is all about. I also want to say, Mr. Speaker, that a sensible people uses the achievements of those who have worked hard as inspiration to move forward. And I want to join with my colleagues who would have said that we have to find a better way of ensuring that our young people are exposed to the stories of those who have gone before, those who have blazed the trail, those who have set the foundation in place for them to be able to move forward. We must find a way to get that information over to our young people. I heard the Honourable Member for St. Thomas speak to civics. I also had a discussion with my neighbour here, the Honourable Member for St. Philip West, talking about using technology. In this era, we have to use multiple modes to convey that information. But what is clear and what is undeniable is that we have to find ways of ensuring that those who come after understand the fight, the struggle, the sacrifice, the hard work that has been put into societal development by those who have gone before, their parents, their grandparents, and those even before them, so that our history, while we are not bound and restricted and constricted by our history, we have to use our history as a platform for launching out. We have to use our history to learn the pitfalls of what not to do going forward. We have to use our history as that thing which guides us, which inspires us to move forward. I've said this in this honourable chamber on a number of occasions, and I am still of the view that quite a number of Barbadians do not realize the damage that has been done to the psyche, the morale of Barbadians over the last decade of the last administration. Some of the comments that I hear now about our progress as a new government suggest to me that the damage has been deep. I know that 300 years of transatlantic chattel slavery has done serious damage to our people, and in some cases to us, because sometimes we have to pull ourselves out of some thinking that has really been caused by that. And comparing 10 years to 300 years convinces me that awards like these are really very important. Because if a people, but not a people, let me not blame all people, but the fact that there are some people who after 10 years have been so damaged that they're not able to understand 18 months after those 10 years tells me that severe damage has been done and that we have a responsibility not to criticize them for statements that we may consider not grounded in good common sense, not sensible, whatever. I don't think it is our responsibility to criticize in that way. It is our responsibility as a government and as an administration that has been elected by the people to do things, say things, put systems in place that will help to reverse some of that damage. When people are ill, whatever kind of illness a person has, the medical approach is to try to reverse. You deal with symptoms. So you have a bad headache, you do something to reduce the headache. If it comes from hypertension, then you something to keep the pressure down. We are always working to reverse. And even though I am always minded to be very positive, I think I would have to use a kind of a negative term. I would want to say that this bill represents a positive move, partly to address a negative sense of what Barbadians may feel about themselves from time to time. And so I think as a government, that is part of our responsibility. Now, part of the damage that has been done is that we have moved from a country, or we had moved, from a country that some attribute a comment to former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, that we were punching above our weight. And we went from that stage to a stage where a prime minister of a neighboring island delivered of himself a lecture entitled "The Idea of Barbados," reflecting on the fact that the Barbados that then existed was really not the one that he knew previously. And we would receive questions from our counterparts in all across the Eastern Caribbean asking us what has happened to Barbados. Such was the damage that was done by the last administration. Our pride, our industry, our psyche, battered, bruised, damaged. We understand that we can recover from that. And part of the recovery is saying thank you to hard workers and lifting them up as people who can be emulated, people who we can aspire to be like. I often say to people, and I had to say it a lot while it was canvassing, because I heard some members speak to shopkeepers and the role they played. And I heard many, many, many stories of my father when I was canvassing. Stories that made me say to some people, if I can be half the man my father was, I would be a great man. Because there are people, not just my dad, but there are countless people across communities in Barbados who have done a lot to alleviate the plight of the poor, to give voice to those who, while they had voice, were not being heard, who would write recommendations for people, who would do all kinds of things to help people in their communities. In that regard, I want to join with those who agree that 20 persons per year is not a large number. I have almost 9,000 persons over the age of 16 in my constituency. And if we award 20 persons per year, in 10 years, we would have awarded 200 people out of between 8,000 and 9,000 people. So I don't think we run the risk of watering down the award. There are many, many people who have done quite a lot to build the communities that they are part of. As a matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, just on Saturday gone, with what I refer to as Sabbath, in our church at Mount Quarter, we would have celebrated the lives of 3 of our stalwarts. 3 persons who were instrumental in developing the church and by extension helping to develop the community surrounding the church. And we made a decision to celebrate the lives of 2 who had already died and 1 who was living. And we thought it made sense to do for the one who was living while he was able to appreciate it. And we were able to celebrate him. And so I want to say, Mr. Speaker, saying thank you, holding up those who have built the foundation upon which we stand is important, and it is something that any mature country would do. One of the things I like about this bill is that it is based on our best traditions of democracy. In this bill, Mr. Speaker, the people of Barbados, not Parliament, not the House of Assembly or the Senate, not Her Majesty's Privy Council, not any other organization, in this bill, the people will do the nominating for those who are to be awarded the Pride of Barbados Award. And I say that is part of the best tradition of democracy. And it is interesting that it is really the Barbados Labour Party way. Because the same party that says the people are the ones to do the nominating here is the party that determined by 1951 that ordinary people needed to have the ability to make decisions for themselves. And so I say to persons, while not trivializing or reducing the importance of independence, a country can only achieve independence if its people are able to say, we want independence. And this Barbados Labour Party, in a previous era, but with the same ethos, said we need to be able to determine our own future. We need to be able to have a say in who will represent us. And this Barbados Labour Party in this time is saying we, the people, need to be able to have a say in who the awardees will be. This Barbados Labour Party. It builds on our tradition of rubbing shoulders and having people's assemblies and having the Thorn Commission. Even on the manifesto that I like to, whenever I open this manifesto, I go to the back page. Because I like to be reminded, somebody talked about the prodigal son. And whenever I open this manifesto, I like to go to the back page because it reminds me of something that gives me hope. But we call this manifesto the People's Manifesto. And it was because we believe in engaging with the people. Just like we believe that we must be able to say thank you to people. I want to call on Barbadians to recommit themselves, or I want to say to all of us that we need to recommit ourselves to service. We need to recognize that we have a responsibility not just to use the cliche, be our brother's keeper, but we have to recognize that as social beings, we have a responsibility to each other. And that each other includes our children, our parents, our siblings, but it goes beyond our family members. That each other includes people in our communities, people in our churches, people in our schools, people in our clubs, people around our communities, people across the nation. We have a responsibility to look out for each other. We are not perfect, and I would be the first to say that we're not going to get it right all the time. You know, there are times when those of us who reflect in the night or in the evening, sometimes you think about some situation that happened during the day where you could have done something, or you could have done something more, or your response to somebody could have been better or more appropriate. We are works in progress, and I want to say to Barbadians, let us start the process, or let us continue the process of looking out for each other and helping each other along the way. We have a responsibility to serve our community. We have a responsibility to serve our country. And I believe in God, and I believe I have a responsibility to serve my God as well. We have responsibilities that go beyond our own narrow personal interests. Those persons who have done it well, who can be our role models, need to be celebrated. And this Pride of Barbados Award will help us in the process of celebrating those who have done well in the area of working hard for others. I began by speaking to the fact that I've been assigned by the Prime Minister responsibility for third sector relations and helping to build the third sector. The third sector, Mr. Speaker, is an interesting, exciting sector in any country. Third sector refers to civil society organizations, also called or sometimes including non-governmental organizations. Most people talk about NGOs. There are also CBOs, community-based organizations. These all comprise, and sometimes the words are used interchangeably, the third sector. The third sector, Mr. Speaker, is made up of people of passion. And I have said before and will say again, there is no government in any country, the worst run, the best managed. There is no government that can set up an organization that can replicate the passion of third sector organizations. People who become members of a diabetes association or an Alzheimer's association or any of the other associations, an Optimist Club dealing with children, whatever those organizations are, people join those organizations, and in many cases people start those organizations because they have been personally touched by something. And that personal experience translates into a passion that is difficult to replicate. And I speak as minister responsible for facilitating their development because there are going to be quite a number of those persons who are going to receive this award who are currently serving in many of these organizations. And I want, using this opportunity in this honorable chamber, Mr. Speaker, to encourage more people to get involved in these organizations or to start their own organizations. I want to encourage that working together because I believe in the team acronym, together, everybody achieves more. I believe that by working together, there are economies of scale. I know that from my own training in economics, but that approach is an approach that moves beyond economics. Working together, we always can achieve a whole lot more than the sum of our individual efforts. And I want to encourage Barbadians to get involved. There are organizations that cater to all kinds of causes. And there is some place for everybody to get involved in volunteering time, volunteering effort, volunteering resources, volunteering money in helping these organizations and by extension, helping the country. I would also want to take this opportunity, and I'm taking this opportunity to update us on the whole matter of facilitating the development of the third sector. And to say to this honorable chamber that my ministry has now completed preparation of a draft cabinet paper, and this draft cabinet paper is about to be sent out for comment from some other ministries. The draft paper builds on a white paper that we received from the Caribbean Policy Development Center, CPDC, a white paper, a call for NGO legislation in Barbados. We have reviewed it with them. We were participants in putting that together. They were the drivers, and I want to give them commendation for that. They've put together the white paper, they've submitted it to us, and we have now completed that draft paper. It will soon be sent for comments, like I said earlier, and our intention is to develop legislation to govern the facilitation of the development of third sector organizations in Barbados. We have reviewed legislation from South Africa, from the United Kingdom, from Belize, and from St. Christopher Nevis, St. Kitts. And we believe that we have a good understanding of what will work for Barbados, and we will move forward, because as a government, we understand that we cannot do it on our own. We need, and we have already started to partner with our third sector organizations. Just Friday last week, we met with many of the service clubs, and we shared with them our vision for Regathering 2020, and they're on board, like all the rest of Barbados is, on board, because they recognize that we see them as partners. We recognize that people who volunteer to serve, people who have committed themselves to the service of their fellow man and their country, are people who will make good partners. Just like in the old days, there was an old gentleman at my church who said he chose his wife because she used to help her father with the sheep, and he knew that she would be a hard worker. And while I don't make choices that way now, I think a country that recognizes hard-working entities and individuals in its midst will recognize that those persons are persons worthy of partnering with, of working with, to achieve the objectives that the country has set itself. And so, Mr. Speaker, I want to end with, part of it was shared by one of my colleagues earlier, but I think that I want to share the complete paragraph from our manifesto at page 62. This is already a document of the House. And it encapsulates, Mr. Speaker, what I think this bill speaks to. It encapsulates the vision of this party in government, and it says to the country, and it says to the world, that we are serious about transforming Barbados, and we are serious about creating in Barbadians an understanding of self, where we've come from, what is our responsibility now to ourselves and to each other, and where we plan to go in the future. And Mr. Speaker, the paragraph reads, "We will root ourselves in Barbadian values that have served us well. We will live out the principles enunciated in our national motto, our pledge, and anthem. On this foundation of tradition, the Barbados Labour Party will build an enhanced sense of national identity, presenting to the region and the world a Barbadian who, by virtue of personal excellence, will stand out anywhere. A Barbadian who is not afraid to dream, to dare, or to do extraordinary things for country, for community, for family, and self." I'm obliged to you.
Honourable Member for St. Michael's, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I seek to wrap up the debate on the award of the Pride of Barbados Bill, let me take the opportunity to thank all honourable members who have spoken in this debate. I believe that this is a signal to the country and indeed the world of how serious we are about reclaiming what we consider in the Barbados Labour Party to be our national consciousness. I can hear from the sentiments that have been expressed by all honourable members that this is something which I know that they feel very passionately about, and that we all, as certainly potential candidates at the time, bought into in being able to be part of a process of transformation of this country. I am particularly pleased that the bill also had the support of the Leader of the Opposition. I am not surprised by his comments because I do recall that he was a signatory to a document, which is a document of the House that the Honourable Member for St. Peter referred to. And in that document, sir, you know, all 30 members at the time who were elected by the people of Barbados in the last election would have, you know, bore signatory, including yourself, Mr. Speaker, to this document. I am happy that this document inspired the honourable member to create his articles. I'm glad that he has acknowledged that the Barbados Labour Party, its leadership, has given him that foresight, and certainly with God's blessings has been able to help him to craft something which mirrors to some extent a lot of what the foundation has been laid by the Barbados Labour Party. That said, sir, I suppose he did not have a choice but to raise a concern about the numbers number of persons who we were seeking to award. But you know, as I listened to the Honourable Member for St. Thomas, I believe she alone could capture the 240 people if you gave her that opportunity. I believe that other honourable members, once given the opportunity, when these awards, the forms are put out there for us to be able to have community persons nominate persons, I can see no difficulty in being able to reach the number that has been identified in this document. And I know that the honourable member, the Leader of the Opposition, member for St. Michael West, he may have some trouble right now connecting to find those persons, but I want to assure him that the Barbados Labour Party has endeavoured to ensure that we have someone to represent the people of St. Michael West. That person has been nominated, and that seat is secure in the hands of none other than Christopher Gibbs, sir. So I want to give this House and the people of St. Michael West the assurance. I will say, you go ahead.
Government business on the other side, in her eagerness, perhaps her excitement over their recent doings in St. Michael West, erred in misleading this House and the public. The people of St. Michael West are what? How did she put it, Mr. Speaker?
You have risen on the point of order.
Well represented in the hands of whoever. I think a misleading statement was just sent. There is but one elected member in this chamber and in this country who represents St. Michael West. That remark should be taken back.
Mr. Speaker, I understand the honourable member is a little troubled. I didn't mean to rattle him. I just wanted to reassure the people of St. Michael West that the Barbados Labour Party has placed that seat in good hands now, moving forward.
I insist that that statement is misleading both this House and the public. The Barbados Labour Party can't place that seat in anybody's hands, and it did not. That needs to be withdrawn. That needs to be withdrawn.
Mr. Speaker, this bill is about ensuring that persons across communities have an opportunity to identify persons whom they believe must be able to be recognized at a national level, sir. and I will restate it for the honourable member, that the intention of this bill and my comments are that the current individual who has been nominated to serve in the constituency of St. Michael West, we are assured in this party that that seat is in good hands. I will not take back that statement, sir, because I believe it is in good hands right now with that individual.
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Leader of Government Business can insist and persist as much as she would. I am awaiting a ruling from your chair, sir. That statement is misleading, both to this House and to the public. It is all right to do that outside there, on the ground, as you have been doing for months, but it is misleading in here and should be taken back. I'm waiting for a ruling.
As in, honourable member, as in relation to the, to what comment?
What is misleading?
That the seat, in relation to what comment, honourable member, you can raise on the point of order.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes, please.
the St. Michael West seat, to use the popular language, is now held by the duly elected person who stands before you at this moment,
That is
expressed by popular vote of the people of St. Michael West. It is misleading to suggest to this House that otherwise obtains. You are brilliant, Mr. Speaker, and I am sure clearly understand what the honourable member said, and I am waiting your ruling.
What did she say was misleading, honourable member, to be quite frank? That the seat is now held by someone else?
Mr. Speaker,
Did she, no, honourable member, did she say the seat was held by someone else?
that is the interpretation
If she said,
which any reasoned person would arrive at. If you want to let the statement stand, Mr. Speaker, I believe I have made my point.
Right.
By all means, let it stand and let her persist.
no, honourable member, if she said that the seat is now held by someone other than yourself, that is truly misleading and will have to be struck from the record. If that was the words that emanated from the mouth of the honourable leader of government, then she will have to take that back. Now, I do not think that she said that it was that the seat is now held by someone other than yourself, honourable member. If she said, honourable, yes.
I believe, Mr. Speaker, it is my right in this House to ask that the House refer to the transcript of what was said and let you be better informed as to what was said.
So I can make an appropriate
Let me
ruling.
be better informed as to what was said, please.
I can so do. If you want the chamber to be suspended so that the official record can be referred to, I will duly oblige you to do that.
How long you need? No, he said you want to suspend.
Yes, yes,
How long do you need? 15 minutes?
yes. Yes, I will.
You want a suspension?
Yes, suspend,
Okay.
yes, yes,
Mr.
yes.
Speaker, I beg to move the suspension of the House until 4:45.
The question is that honourable chairman will be suspended until 4:45. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. This House stands suspended until 4:45.